In this video series, I'm going to show you how you can become a remote bookkeeper even if you don't have experience or you don't have a background in accounting. Now, if you do have experience, the process is obviously going to be a little faster because you're going to be able to skip some steps, but I'm going to go over everything step by step so that you can go from zero experience to making money and actually getting bookkeeping clients. So in this first video, I'm going to talk to you about what a typical day would be like doing bookkeeping and what types of things you would be doing as a bookkeeper and what skills you need to become a bookkeeper, because I feel like you should know or have some sort of idea of what it's like so you can make a decision as far as whether you actually want to do this before you put time and energy and money into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is what a typical day would be like or what a typical schedule would be like. With bookkeeping, the nice thing about it is you don't always have to do it in a certain time frame. A lot of times when you're doing virtual bookkeeping, you're working part-time for multiple clients, so you have a lot of control over how many clients you take on and how much work you do. So that's the nice thing about this career, and you can do it usually at any time. You don't have to be locked into a certain time frame of having to do the work. Now, if you're doing something like payroll, yeah, you may have to do that on a certain day, but for the most part, most of the work can be done anytime. And the nice thing also about bookkeeping is you can do it even if you have a lot of background noise. So if you're doing this and you have children at home, you're gonna probably be okay outside of maybe an occasional video meeting or an occasional phone call. For the most part, you're not doing face-to-face time with clients. You're mostly just doing the work, and it's okay if you have some background noise. When my son was younger and I knew I had a meeting coming up, I would just schedule childcare for that time. But the rest of the time he was either home or in preschool, and it was very doable with him around. Now, if you want to work 40 hours a week and you have 3 kids under the age of 5, that's probably going to be a struggle. But if you have part-time childcare, or maybe you just have one child, or you have children in school, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to do this. So as far as when you work, again, like I said, you can do this whenever, but I personally chose to work during more of a business hour type schedule, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5-ish. I'm usually on my computer working, and that just makes it easier because when you're communicating back and forth through email, if you are working similar hours to your clients, it does make communication a little easier, but you certainly don't have to do it that way. And then as far as the type of work you would be doing, I made a list here on the board of some common tasks that you would be doing. Entering transactions, that's just data entry, entering expenses, entering deposits, things like that. Reconciliation, all that is comparing what you entered versus what's on the bank statement and matching things up just to make sure there's no mistakes. Loan splits, all that is splitting a loan payment between interest and principal and making sure the balance in the software matches what's on the statement. Bill pay, preparing checks. You would be potentially preparing checks in their software and then someone in the office actually prints them, or using a bill pay service such as bill.com to enter and pay bills for them. Reports, usually this is very simple. If you're using a software to record their transactions, then doing the reports is just a matter of going in there, looking for the report you're trying to find, putting in the parameters as far as what date, time frame you want, and then printing it to a PDF. So for the most part, the software is going to do the reports. You just have to access them and send them to the client. You may do some special reports specific to a certain client, but more than likely in the beginning, you would just be doing basic reports. And then payroll is just processing payroll. Usually companies use software for this, but I would suggest holding off on doing payroll services in the beginning if you don't have any experience, especially if you're working for companies in multiple states, because you're not always going to be familiar with payroll in multiple states. And even though a software is usually doing a lot of the tax returns and things like that, you still have to be somewhat familiar with payroll before you're actually providing those services for someone. So if you're not sure, I would suggest not starting with payroll and waiting until you're a little more experienced and have more time to research it. And then job costing, that's actually a lot easier than it sounds. Job costing would be stuff like tracking costs per client, costs per customer, cost per product, something like that. And softwares actually make this pretty simple. So those are just some things you would be doing. Obviously, there's more out there that you could do, but the transactions and the reconciliations would probably be a big thing. One thing I forgot to put on this list is creating invoices. You may actually be creating invoices for the client, and you could even be processing credit card payments as well, and doing collections, calling customers, things like that. But those are some common tasks that you might do. Now, you may not want to do everything. You may not want to do payroll. You may not want to do the bill pay. It just depends on what services you decide to offer. And then as far as the skills you need to be a bookkeeper, I would say you need to be okay with numbers in that you don't hate them. You don't hate math. You don't have to be a math whiz, because most of the time it's just simple addition, subtraction type stuff. And a lot of times the software is doing those things for you. It's totaling up expenses to put on the reports and things like that. But you still may need to do some manual calculations with a calculator. It's not that you're doing a lot of math, but you will be looking at numbers all day long. So if you absolutely hate numbers and hate math, then bookkeeping may not be the career for you, just because if you already hate something, you're not going to want to see that all day. So you will look at a lot of numbers, and then you will definitely need to be organized, because you will have things that need to be done, and you're not going to have someone standing over you telling you what to do every day. You're going to be expected to know what you're supposed to do, to know when payroll's coming up, to know when reports are going to be sent, and just do it and have it done. So you definitely need to also be self-directed and organized, because you're going to need to know what you're supposed to do and make sure you do it and plan for it. So I use task lists. I use a free website called Asana, and I put my tasks in there so I know what I have coming up. And then I also, on Mondays, I'll write on a piece of paper all my tasks for the week. And then as I complete the tasks, I just cross them off. And that seems like overkill to have the tasks in the software and on a piece of paper. But for me, I just don't want to forget something like a payroll or something important. So that's why I do it like that. But in other words, you just want to be organized and self-directed, so you make sure you get everything done. And then another aspect of the job is you will need to be able to focus and sit at a desk for long periods of time to do the work. Now, of course, you are in charge of how many clients you take on, and you may choose to take very few clients, so you only have to work a few hours a day, but it's still a job where you do have to be able to sit down and focus to get the work done in a timely manner. As far as what equipment is needed, the main things you need are just a basic computer and 2 monitors. You can get away with 1 monitor as long as it's big enough that you can put multiple tabs on one screen, but I like to have 2 monitors so I can have 1 tab on this screen and then maybe a bank statement or another item on the second screen, and it makes it more efficient and it helps me be more accurate. So 2 monitors I think is really important. And then of course a webcam, speakers, and a microphone. You won't have a lot of face-to-face meetings, virtual meetings, but you will have some. So you do want to be prepared for that. People do expect you to be comfortable with a webcam and getting on camera in a meeting. So, and then another thing that I would say to get is a shredder, because if you print out somebody's bank statement or a tax report or something with personal information, you're going to want to shred that paper when you're done with it. And you don't need an expensive shredder. I think the shredder I have was about $40 or $50. I didn't spend a lot on computer equipment when I first started. I used a computer I already had and just purchased a second monitor. So I didn't really spend a lot of money on my equipment in the beginning. You don't need to spend a lot, but you do need those basic items. So I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, just feel free to comment below, and just look out for my next video in this series. The next video is going to talk about what kind of money you can expect to make in this career. So thank you for watching.